How y'all doing? How you doing? How y'all doing? This is Gena Golden. I'm your inner coach, and I'm talking about overcoming your test anxiety. And this topic today is about why you won't pass your exam. I'm a little hoarse because I just got finished doing a workshop, and so I always lose my voice towards the end. But you won't pass your next exam. You won't. You won't pass your next exam if you continue to do this thing over and over again. And I know this is strange coming from me because I'm always encouraging you how you will pass your test, right? I'm always coming from a positive angle of what you can do and what you're capable of and what you have the power to do. But today I'm saying you won't pass your test. Why am I saying that? Why would I suggest that? Well, I'm not really saying you won't pass your exam. I'm saying if you do this thing, you won't pass, right? So what is that thing? What is it that you must not do, right? There are some things that you shouldn't do in order to pass, and there are things that if you do them, you're guaranteeing that you won't pass. So the thing I want to tell you today is you won't pass the test if you don't stick with the facts. If you don't stick with the facts, you won't pass the test. What do I mean by that? When you start making stuff up, when you start making assumptions, when you start arriving at conclusions that are not true, right? You won't pass the test. When you do those things in your personal life, you won't pass the test. When you jump to conclusions in your own mind about what someone said or what someone did or what you thought or how you perceived it, you jump to conclusions without bona fide facts. You won't be successful in life. But this is how you won't be successful with your test. Because many people just don't stick to the facts. When you are taking your examination, it's going to give you all sorts of scenarios, case studies, vignettes, and you have to read it and base your answer on what is factually there. But many of us fill in the blanks. We fill in information that doesn't exist. And it comes from our own story, our own narrative, our own limited thinking that cause us to create a scenario that doesn't exist. It's not factual. It's not real. So I just did a training and we had vignettes. And I personally wrote the vignette myself, so I know it very well. And having the participants go into small groups, they were able to talk it through and figure out some of the answers and how the dialogue and what, ethical dilemmas they may have come upon in this vignette. Well, many of the participants made a lot of assumptions that weren't even there, assumptions that were not in the vignette. The vignette never talked about what the person felt about a particular thing, but the reader jumped to that conclusion. And because the reader jumped to that conclusion, as valid as it could be, right? It could be a valid conclusion, but it wasn't there, which means it wasn't a fact. But when you jump to a conclusion like some of the attendants did, they created a whole scenario and a whole narrative around this assumption. And that led them to react and provide the support that they provided based on innuendo, based on an assumption, based on projection, right? It had nothing to do with what was factually there. Nothing, right? And how many of you do this in your own life? And if you tend to do it in your own life, you'll tend to do it when it comes time to sitting for your exam. When you fill in the blanks of your own life and assume that because someone said or did something or looked at you a certain way or didn't say something, and you start filling in the blanks and making assumptions and creating a big story around something that doesn't exist, you will fail in your relationships and you will fail your next exam. So when you sit for your examination, stick with the facts. Stick with what is written in the body of the question. Stick with what is being said. Do not make an assumption. Don't jump to conclusions. Don't make assumptions, right? If it says a mother and her child went to the supermarket and the child fell because the mother wasn't watching, should the mother be, considered neglectful, right? One can look at that scenario. You have a mother, you have a child, the child fell, the child got hurt, right? Is it neglectful? We can make all sorts of assumptions, but the fact is, that's all we know. But if we create a story, the child, she should have been holding the child's hand. She didn't see the puddle on the floor. The child slipped and fell and broke their ankle. The mother was too busy on the phone. She didn't pay attention. She wasn't being focused and attentive to the child. We start filling in the blanks and creating a scenario that did not exist, when it could be another scenario. The other scenario is the child was 25 years old. Still the person's child, but it's an adult. Was the mother then neglectful because her 25-year-old fell, right? So we start filling in the blanks, making assumptions, and coming up with wrong conclusions, and we wonder why we failed the test. We wonder why we fail in relationships. We wonder why we fail at the job. We wonder why we fail in other areas because we are insistent upon making assumptions. Thank you, Patricia. She said, do not assume. Don't assume. Don't assume. But if you are in the habit of assuming, you may continue to assume on the day of your exam. And you may allow your mind to take you down these rabbit holes that don't exist, and you're basing your answer off of the rabbit hole that you dug. Stop digging these rabbit holes. Stick to the facts. If it wasn't said in the body, in the question, in the statement, it doesn't exist. It's not real. Don't create a whole narrative around it and then select an answer that fits your narrative that wasn't even in the stem of the question. Patricia said, help me. Help me. Why? What do you need help with? What's going on? Talk to me. Maybe you're saying help me because you do this, or you make some assumptions, or you go down rabbit holes, or you create a narrative, or you project, and you do all these other things that cause you to act and behave and even select the wrong answer. So if you do that, you'll probably fail, because all of the questions will set you up to make you, not to make you, but all the questions will be what they are. You will make yourself make assumptions and draw conclusions that did not exist. Patricia said, exactly, the hole is deep. I guess your rabbit hole is deep, huh? Yeah. We do that. Now, I didn't say what happened in my training today, and it wasn't that scenario, but that was just an example. And I watched some of the participants just kind of spiral downward about what they thought this person was experiencing, right? From fear to anxiety to worry, or somebody didn't have enough strength to do this, that, or the other, or somebody was a bully and blah, 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 blah. And we make a lot of assumptions, and it was all good intent. No shade. I enjoyed it because just through conversation, they were able to see, oh, wow, I am making that assumption. Oh, okay, that wasn't even in the vignette. I just kind of created that on my own. Absolutely. It's a subconscious awareness. Or should I say, we're unconsciously aware of how and when we do that. Like, we literally do that day in and day out. We take one small piece of information and we create an entire scenario around it. Patricia says, yes, ma'am. She said, I've taken the exam twice already. The whole is swallowing me up. Don't let it swallow you. Don't let it swallow you. Right? So, take control of a situation by being meticulous with your thought. Read each word meticulously. Right? Don't fill in the blank. Don't see the word and where there is no and. Don't see the word or where there is no or. Don't see the word maybe when there is no maybe. Don't see the word all when there is no all, right? Stick to the facts. Do not put in these extra words and these extra meanings, because those extra words and extra meanings redefine the entire scenario and cause you to pick an answer that's based on this new narrative, this new story that you created. Stop doing that. If you do that, you will fail, because all of your answers will have that same line of thinking. And I know you're better than that. And maybe you weren't aware that you do it. Well, I'm bringing awareness to you so you can stop it, so you can do something different, because I want you, from the bottom of my heart, I want you to pass, right? You want you to pass. I just want to celebrate you, right? Because there is absolutely no reason why you can't pass. It's the little things, those little bitsy things that get in the way of passing. Just little tiny things. And we know that if you make the same repetitive little tiny mistakes, they lead to big mistakes in terms of points on your exam, right? It could be such a small thing. But if you do a small thing 20 times, then that'll cost you your examination. Patricia said, yes, meticulous with my thoughts, purposeful. Absolutely. Read those words word for word, as if you're back in elementary school trying to grasp the concept. Don't allow your eyes to glaze over and assume the sentence is saying something that it isn't, right? Because when we read a book, when we read a novel, we kind of know the flow of the way the author is going to talk, right? So if the author continuously says a certain type of word or a phrase, when you're reading, your eyes begin to gloss over, and you can actually read the next 3 or 4 words without really reading them. Like, subconsciously you see them, or you see them in the periphery of your vision, but you just gloss over them and you make assumptions based off of how you know the author normally writes, or what conclusion the author normally gets to. And so you make these assumptions without being meticulous with the way you are reading each and every word. Be meticulous with your thought. Be meticulous with your word. Be meticulous with your understanding and your comprehension. Don't gloss over. Don't assume. Don't draw conclusions that are not there, right? Stick to the facts. Stick to the facts. I mean, I encourage my clients that have, limited thinking and self-sabotage, stick to the facts. If this person did not say you are a jerk, don't make assumptions that you are a jerk. Don't assume that that's what they are saying when they did not say it, right? Don't assume that you annoy someone. Don't assume that you disturb someone. Don't assume that someone thinks this way about you. Don't assume that you're not bright enough. Stick to the facts. The facts are not, assumptions. Facts are facts. Right? Patricia said, thank you. I want to do something different. Think differently, respond differently, be different. Absolutely. Be different. be different, right? So practice, pick up a novel, pick up a magazine, pick up a newspaper, and meticulously read each word. Train yourself to pick up on all things in that sentence. Train yourself to read a paragraph and then close the book and try to summarize what you just read, right? Have a session with like your friend or your daughter or your cousin or your best friend and say, let's both read this paragraph and let's close the book and let's summarize in our own words what we read, and watch the assumptions. Watch how both of you make conclusions that weren't there. Check yourself. Check your friend and say, oh, wait a minute, you assumed that he was the boss, but he was the worker. Or you assume that when they said doctor, they meant a male and it was really a woman. Check yourself to see how many assumptions you make so that you can start to be consciously aware of the way you gloss over information and you assume that it's right. You create assumptions, you jump to conclusions. And if you can catch this before your examination, you can utilize this skill set when you take your exam. Stick to facts. Be meticulous with your word. Be meticulous with your thought. Be meticulous with your scanning of the words that you're reading. Be meticulous. Be meticulous and stick to the facts. So, if you don't do it, those little mistakes add up to big mistakes, which adds up to points taken away from your examination. And that has nothing to do with your intelligence. Nothing. And when people fail, they think they're not smart enough or something is not wrong or they can't retain information. It's the little mistakes that we do. It's the little assumptions that we make. It's the conclusions that we draw based on our own narrative. You might have a narrative that has a belief that all doctors are men. Your narrative might have a belief that all women are a certain way, or all girls are a certain way, or all gays and lesbians are a certain way, or all black people are a certain way, or all people of color or Christians or whatever, right? If you have those beliefs, that leads to these assumptions, and it leads to you jumping to conclusions, and you start inserting your own life into these questions on the test that have nothing to do with your personal life. Nothing. You have to pull away from that. You have to stop inserting you in everything. Right? It's not about you. It's the stem, it's the question, it's the phrase, it's the summary, it's the vignette, it's the case study. It has nothing to do with you and your personal experience. Right? You don't need to do that. You need to just read it and stick to the facts. So I'm hoping that was helpful to you, because if you do that, you're asking to not pass. I want you to pass, so I want you to stop it. I want you to pay attention to your own biases, your own judgments, your own assumptions, your own everything. I want you to pay attention to that and just leave it outside of your testing room so that you can be fully present and focused on what is being asked of you in these settings, right? So go out and do what you need to do and slay your next examination like I know you can. You have it within you. If I got it within me, you have it within you. So I look forward to celebrating you very soon. Take care and let me know what's happening in your life. Peace and love.